I'm Julie. I am head of product design at ProductHunt, and I've been working remotely since 2015 now. And I've been very vocal about remote work, and today I'm going to talk about what it's like to be part of a remote first team. So I work at ProductHunt, and ProductHunt was started 5 years ago, actually this week, on Thanksgiving break. And from the start, it was a remote team because the founder were not in the same location, actually not even on the same continent when the company started. And as the team grew, it didn't feel logical or normal. We didn't actually think about it. We kept hiring people remotely just because it felt completely normal. So it was not something we actually thought about it. We didn't think about being a remote first team. We didn't think that we were doing something different. It just felt normal for us to do that. And I often hear people talk about the difficulty of building a remote team, like starting completely remote with no offices, and thinking how it is a challenge compared to if you're all in the same office and you're building a product together. But that's what we did at ProductHunt, and it didn't change anything for us. Actually, we had many advantages, and the first one was no rent. We had absolutely no rent to pay for an office, and that was good because we didn't have money, so pretty good. Also, we were able to hire anyone from anywhere in the world, and so we had access to a bigger pool of talents. And if you are trying to hire people only in San Francisco, salaries are quite expensive. It doesn't mean that we're paying people less because they are somewhere else in the world, but it also means that when we are hiring someone, we are trying to hire the best person we can find on Earth for the same salary, instead of having the best one you can find that is available in San Francisco and that will probably quit in 12 months because it's a very competitive market. Other thing that is interesting, so I do product, my job is to design product. And one thing that is really interesting when you hire people from all over the world is that they tend to think differently. Here we are all in Paris, we have the same way of thinking about things, about how we work, what type of food we're eating for lunch, how it's a typical day of work. And people all over the world, they don't have the same way of thinking about things. And that's actually very interesting when you're building a product, because it's all that thinking outside the box mentality that is not an effort anymore. It's just there because people are thinking differently. So I'm going to talk about how we actually manage to work remotely at ProductHunt. And the first thing is that we don't have a physical office. Yes, we have an entity in a company in the US, and actually 2 years ago we were bought by a company called AngelList, and they do have offices in New York and San Francisco, so we can work from there. But the reality is that our office is Slack. Everything goes through Slack. I start my day when I'm logged in on Slack. And we use different tools for management to stay connected, but to be completely honest, they're not different from the ones I used when I was working at Deezer or Mention or PrestaShop, or they are the same tools. The only thing that changed for me as a designer is that I don't sit next to a friend engineer anymore to do design reviews or fine-tuning things with CSS and stuff like that. So being remote forces us to document everything, and both Vincent and Rodolphe said that before. Like, we need to document everything and write everything. No one in our team should be the single source of knowledge about the project. And that's not because we want to be able to replace people. It's because we want to be able to not disturb you at 3 a.m. when you're sleeping, to ask you a question, because, well, the project is like being worked on, and you might be the only person to have the answer for that question. It also means that you can take a vacation and not being disturbed by your teammate asking for information about, oh, should that thing be implemented, or what is the plan with this sponsorship, or what's going on with the next hackathon. And there's something many people ask me, and it's about the product development cycle. So I don't know why, but a lot of people think that because we're remote, the product development cycle is different for some reason. It's a mystery for me. So I'm sorry to disappoint, but we are actually very classical in the way we do the work. We do quarterly planning, we do annual roadmap, we have objectives and key results. Like, we're very classical in the way we do things. The only big difference between non-remote company and remote companies might be that we do annual gathering to plan the roadmap all together. So, for example, next week I'm flying to Los Angeles, and the whole company is flying to Los Angeles, and we're all meeting in this huge mansion in Beverly Hills to do the roadmap planning. So apparently I'm supposed to wear a swimsuit for that. I don't know. But anyways, that's the only big difference. So apart from cool annual road trips, no rent, and a bigger pool of talents, a remote company is not very different from a non-remote one. But there still are some difference, and the most obvious is this one. So we're a small team. ProductHunt is a small team. We're 17 people at the moment, and we're on 8 different time zones. So we have a large span from Singapore to San Francisco and all in between, which make things like quite difficult to plan meetings and to work real time together. So what do? Well, actually, we don't work real time together. We work when we see fit, and we try to make the best of it. And to make this work, we try to do like very good plannings and very good documentation, like I said before. But sometimes, because we're all humans, there are conflict and there are problems coming on with communication and being so far apart from each other. So how do we deal with conflict? Because those happen. Well, just like you would have a conflict with someone in the same office, you try to calm down and you try to communicate like a professional. And the big difference for us is that our communication is asynchronous. So if I read a message on Slack and I'm like really pissed, I'm like, what the hell is going on with this project? I'm gonna kill someone. And I know that I worked with some people in real offices before, and they know I can get angry. So the big advantage for me is that I'm just being angry by myself in front of my computer, and I can calm down, and I can reread the message, and I can be like, maybe it was just a misunderstanding. Maybe I'm just an idiot. Maybe, yes, that idea is better. So being remote, being asynchronous, it gives all us time to reflect about the idea we are being offered. And before saying something, like, you know, there is this saying that you should turn your tongue 7 times in your mouth before saying something. Well, you actually have time to do that. So it's pretty handy when we're dealing with disagreement. But to avoid miscommunication and conflict, we have set a few rules on what we can do. So we all speak in English, obviously, but some of us are actually sharing the same language. And actually, 2 weeks ago, I did job interviews with French candidates in English, and that was kind of weird, a bit funny also. But anyway, yeah. We also try to avoid using keywords like technical words that are not clear and abbreviations. But when we do, we try to give a reminder of what they actually mean. And actually, there is one abbreviation that we use all the time, and it's PT for Pacific time, because that's the time of reference. And everything we do when we're planning a meeting, when I'm saying from what hour to which hour I'm working, we're all talking with the same time zone. Otherwise, everyone has to make like conversion, and that's just a mess. So we all talk in Pacific hours. And so this is a question I often get. Like, you're never in the same office. What about company cultures? So if some of you know ProductHunt, we're big on cats and like funny gifs and emoji and things like that. That's not like very culture, but that's the personality of the company to the outside world. And we have something that we call kittenish. Like, I know that at Google we talk about like being Googlish or something like that. That's the same for ProductHunt. Like, we want people fun to work with, and we want to not have the same personality because we want people from different cultures and everything, but we want the same happiness and like trust and same, how do I say that? What? Spirit? Yeah, the same spirit, thank you. But yeah, the main problem is that we don't share lunch, we don't do coffee breaks together. We don't gossip in the cafeteria. There is less connection that you would have in an office. So what we try to do is exactly what Rodolphe told you before, is that during each team call, which by the way is only once a week because we're not big fans of meeting, we give personal updates. We talk about our weekend, our families, what we actually doing outside of work before actually talking about our project and the work. And beside that, we're actually all in contact all the time and chatting all the time. Like most of my coworkers, I have them on messages and we keep texting all day. I think I know more about their lives than their therapist or someone else. So, but all this was about team organization, but I'm going to talk a little bit about being a remote worker, because it doesn't just mean like working from home or working in my pajamas, because I actually was doing this when I was working at Deezer, so anyway. And honestly, if you ask me if I would be good at remote working before I started, because I totally started by accident, I would have told you no. Like, no way. I will never be good at remote work, mainly because of this. I assume that not having someone behind me, behind my back, to push me to do the work, to tell me like, you have a meeting at this time and you have to deliver that thing before the end of the week, I would suck at that. I have never been good at self-discipline. I'm very good at watching videos and watching Netflix. I'm super good at tweeting stupid things. But the truth is, I've never been more productive than since I'm working from home, which is a bit weird because I was always told that I sucked at discipline and working by myself. But the reality is, when I work from home, I work and focus on one task, and I'm not interrupted by people asking me questions. I'm not interrupted by the coffee break or a next meeting going on, or someone just hovering behind my back asking me like to push that thing 5 pixels left or whatever. But yeah, so I work from home, and but 2 speakers are working from co-working space, and I actually tried, and that's not for me. But working from home makes you lonely, like lonely as fuck. And when I first started, I would work all day, like you would do in an office, like being all day at the office and working all day and see no one. And I would get like very, very depressed, like depressed to the point where I started going to the Monoprix twice a day just to see people. That was a bit insane, like, you know, like you're going in the morning to plan your lunch, and then you're going in the afternoon to get a snack, and the people at Monoprix are just looking at you like, what the fuck is going on? So, but that was my mistake. And the mistake was believing that I needed to work from 9 to 5. And then realizing that my teammates are starting working when it's like 7 p.m. for me. So obviously that was really long day where I was seeing no one except for my cat. And I asked myself and I asked other remote workers what they would do. And actually they were like, you don't have to be at home or at the office all day long. You're not commuting, like you're saving maybe 1 or 2 hours per day. Well, go to the gym, go have lunch with friends, get a drink with someone in the afternoon or in the evening, just go to the movie theater if you want, if you need to take a break. If you're not productive right now, do something else and come back to work later. So that's what I started to do, and I went to the gym a lot. And I met friends there, and I've been meeting people for lunch, and I've been going to conferences, and I've been traveling while working. I worked from beach in Greece last summer. I spent 2 months in the south of France. I visit my friends in California when I can. I go to a lot of conferences and meet a lot of interesting people. And all this while I work, like not during my days off. And that brings me to a question I ask myself about the status of a remote worker and, well, mainly days off. So, when you're a remote worker for a French company and working remote in France, then you just sign a CDI or a CDD and that's it. There is no question behind that. But if you're like me, the only remote employee in France for a company that doesn't have an entity in France, what do you do? Like it become a little bit more complicated. So there is a system in France that is what they call, like the French administration call this contrat de détachement, which is the possibility for a foreign company to hire a French employee in France with a French contract without a company. But you all know French administration? Yeah. Let's try to tell to a company that they have to deal with French administration and pay social taxes, all this in French. Well, that doesn't work. I don't know any remote worker with that type of contract in France because it would require for the company to hire like a HR consultant, a lawyer, an accountant, all this to manage one employee in France. I don't know if I would have like money left for my salary actually. So, like many remote workers, I am a contractor. So I'm an independent worker and I'm paid a fixed salary by the company I work for. And yes, I have days off and I have all the benefits that American employees have within the company, which means a stipend, a new laptop, gym membership, lunches, and what else do I have? Well, the big questions. Remote and startup employees, do they have like shares, options in the company they work for? Like, that's one of the big benefits of working for a startup is that to have shares in the company. But how do we do that when you're not actually an employee? Well, we have at ProductHunt and like many other companies, the same kind of contract. So it's possible to give shares and to give option and give whatever you want actually to someone who's just a contractor. So that's what we do. And that in the future there will exist an international full-time employment contract, but since we have to discuss that with government, I'm not like so confident about this existing in the future. But with my current experience, my current status, and my current job, I'm quite happy, so I have absolutely no complaints about that. So that's it for me, and if you have questions, just ask.
Thank you very much, Julie. Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
Hi. How do you manage your time at ProductHunt? Do you have like 5 days a week, or you can work and choose when you take a day off, or do you still have planning?
That's an interesting question. So we usually work from Monday to Friday. We don't have rules actually about this. What we want is people to do the work, and when I have things to do during the week, I just do them. And if I finish by Wednesday, then I'm done for the week, or I can start working for the next task I have. But we're not like monitoring people and monitoring the time they are doing. So yeah.
Hi. Would you hire a junior product designer or junior developer? How would you do that? And
Okay.
would you do that?
We did. We actually did hire a junior engineer last year. Yesterday was his first anniversary in the company, by the way. So we did, and it was not easy. It's quite challenging, and personally, I would not recommend to someone starting their career to be remote from day one. It's not for everyone. Luckily, this junior engineer did like an amazing job, and I should ask him a question about how he managed this, but well, I don't think I would hire a junior designer to work with me right now at this point to be remote. But yeah, apparently it works. Not for everyone though.
Hi. How do you manage your work as a designer being remotely? There's so much that is co-creation and just, getting briefs and getting knowledge and then presenting your stuff. So how do you manage that? I imagine that everyone is pretty sensitive about, because everyone is remote, but still.
Yeah. So we have a very simple process. We share often and we share early all the time. When I design something, it's available and shared on InVision while I'm designing it. So it's not exceptional for my teammates to see something that is still being worked on. And so they can comment, and I can directly ask for feedback on this. The other thing is that we are working in features teams. So it's like we're not all working together on the same team. We're separated by feature team. And when a designer is working on a feature, he's like the lead designer on this feature. My role is to oversee that everything that we do is consistent and following the correct guidelines. But yeah, my only advice for designers in remote team is to share often early and not be shy of sharing. That was difficult for me at the beginning because that was not my way of working on things.
Okay.
Thanks. You mentioned procrastination and having self-discipline and focus. Do you use tools in order to maintain self-discipline or to keep focus, like Pomodoro or such?
A lot of it. No, I actually don't use tools, but I do workstation. It's not tools, it's just like workstation with someone. So I will tell someone that is on a similar time zone as me, and we're helping each other. It's like, I'm working on this, and please check on me in 1 hour, and I will check on what you've been doing in the next hour, and we do that sometimes, and it works.
Thank you very much.